Well, good evening, members. I welcome you to the Regeneration Community Committee of Fermanagh and Omagh District Council on the 10th of October. We're in the Town Hall here in Enniskillen, and for those joining via WebEx, you're very welcome. We'll go to item 1 on our agenda as apologies. Have we any apologies, Councillor Green?
Councillor McArdle, apologies.
Okay, thank you.
And I think Councillor Coyle might be running late.
Okay. See anyone else indicating members? Councillor Warrington, do you want to come on at this point to do that?
Thank you, Chair. Well, basically, it's just to give official notice that we will be replacing Councillor Diana Armstrong with Councillor Mark Ovens on the audit panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 2 is to sign the minutes and confidential minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 12th of September 2023. Those have been signed. And number 3, is there any declarations of interest? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Declaration of interest, item 6.1, as a member of the Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board, but I will remain in the chamber. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Item 5.1 as a board member of the Education Authority.
Okay. Councillor Diana Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. Item 6.1 as a member of the Community Planning Partnership, and item 6.2 as a member of the Visitor Experience Development Plan Partnership. And as there are updates, I'll just be staying in the chamber. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McElduff.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Declaration of interest. Current chair of the Community Planning Partnership. 6.1 that might refer to.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. 5.3, the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee.
Okay, Councillor Withers.
6.1 as well there, Chair, member of the Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board. Thank you.
And Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. 5.2, member of the Management Committee of the Geopark. Just there's funding to be allocated there, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor Rennie.
6.1. 6.1.
6.1, okay. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Apologies, Chair. I may as well just add, I'm also part of the Community Planning Strategic Board.
Okay. All right, members, thank you for that. Just at this point, we're going to move to confidential. Oh, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Apologies, Chair, I was late there. Agenda item 6.2, declaration of interest there as an employee of Waterways Ireland. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Just a proposer and seconder, please, that we move to do the confidential reports. Councillor Thompson proposed, and a seconder, please, Councillor Stephen Donnelly. Thank you. On again, please. Thank you. Can you sum up, please, for us, Chief Executive?
Thank you, Chair. While in committee, the committee rather considered an update report on the forthcoming public inquiry on planning application, and also considered the update report of the Director of Community and Wellbeing, and voted and agreed on recommendations associated with both items.
Thank you, Alison. Proposer to accept that, Councillor Armstrong. Proposed seconder, Councillor Thompson. Thank you. Okay, take you back now, members, to item 4.1 is to consider update report on the Sperrins Partnership. Kieran's bringing this to us. Thanks, Kieran.
Thank you, Chair. This report is an update on the Sperrins Partnership and seeks approval for continued support from Council with respect to the outdoor partnership and the preparation of a Sperrin Area AONB Management and Action Plan. Section 2.1 talks about the Sperrins Partnership and the work to date that has been undertaken. 2.2 is work around the outdoor partnership, outdoor activity officer for the Sperrins for a 4-year period, which the purpose of which is enhancing people's physical and mental health and well-being while improving economic return and the social value of outdoor activity, such as walking, cycling and adventure sports. We're looking, the project's looking for the Council to sign a memorandum of understanding. At the same time, the outdoor partnership is working to secure additional funds for the programme, and the cost of the programme in year one and year 2 has been covered by existing costs. For year 3 and year 4, that has a potential cost of up to £4,000. Mindful of the estimates, but that money will be contained within the Ilma and Sperrins budgets. 2.3 is just an update on the Sperrins Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, and the fact that funding has been secured for that programme at no cost to the Council. And as part of that programme will be the recruitment of a project officer, which will result in minor changes to the Sperrins Partnership structure as set out in the appendices. The Sperrins Walking Programme has commenced in the other areas of the Sperrins, with our event happening in March 2024 in and around the lower Sperrins, around the Gorts and Glens. I just like to move to the recommendations. Approves funding from existing budgets to support continuation of the outdoor partnership project in the Sperrins. Signs the memorandum of understanding with the outdoor partnership. Continues to offer financial support for the continuation of the Sperrins Partnership project at a cost of £22,000, subject to confirmation of funding from the other 3 councils for the remaining term of the council. Notes the terms and conditions of the DAERA environmental funding strategic strand that is funding the area of outstanding, or the ONB, and agrees to the recruitment of the AONB project officer, and notes the amendment to the current Sperrins Partnership structure.
Thank you, Kieran. Councillor Withers.
Thank you, Chair. I want to welcome the report and propose the recommendations. I think it's a very positive report, and certainly the Sperrins is really a jewel in our district and something we should be maximising in terms of attracting visitors, and as well as supporting the health and well-being of our people. And I think that the support for the various sport and outdoor activities is all very positive. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Podrick Kelly. Hi, now there, Councillor Z.
Can you hear me, Chair?
It's very low, but go ahead.
No, happy to second the proposal. And also, if I could add in, if there could be a wee bit more coverage on our social media platforms, just to promote the work of the Friends of the Glen, their inclusive walking group. It's for older, younger, and I'm aware the Sperrin Partnership will probably look at things like that, but I just think that we could do a wee bit more in terms of our social media coverage.
Oh, okay, Councillor. All agreed on that? Proposed and second. Thank you, members. Passed. Next item is 4.2, is to consider a business case report And Anne's bringing that to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to provide an update on one business case. In January 2023, the Council's Regeneration and Community Committee approved a business case for investment of up to £400,000 to address health and safety concerns in the Grange building. These concerns related to the Workplace Health and Safety and Welfare Regulations, Northern Ireland 1993, and HSE guidance linked to thermal comfort within the workplace. The project involved the replacement of all the single glazed windows in the building with triple glazed windows. To progress the work, Watts Group building surveyors were appointed to complete an extensive survey of the building, including an intrusive investigation of the windows and the surrounding facade. The subsequent report advised that additional issues were found, including evident defects around the window reveals, sills and heads. This issue was causing cold bridging problems on the walls surrounding the windows, and the report noted that the replacement of the windows units only would not resolve the problem. To address the windows identified or the issues identified in the report, the proposed project scope has now been extended to include the window replacement with triple glazing and to complete repairs to the brick facade, cold bridging and silver bead cavity wall insulation. The Energy Management Quarterly Report for October to December 2021 notes that the Grange building had the third worst performance in terms of heating-related energy intensity. The Grange building was given a DEC rating of E. The energy modelling identified that this work will lead to a 34% reduction in the heat requirement, resulting in a saving of 36 tonnes of net CO2 production per year and equating to reduced heating costs of around £9,433 per year. And the work will increase the DEC's rating for the Grange building to C. And the Council's energy management policy includes a target of achieving C rating or better for the buildings in the Council estate by the year 2025. The investment will also contribute to the vision set out in the Council's estate strategy, a sustainable, well-managed and fit-for-purpose estate which supports the delivery of its services in an effective and efficient manner. This work will future-proof this strategically significant facility, maintaining the chamber for Council meetings, retaining space for members to meet, and enabling the Grange to become the main administration centre for staff in Omagh. And as part of this work, a review of the other office space will need to be completed in order to establish future accommodation requirements. Alongside this, a decant working group has been established to manage the decant and related communications. However, it's anticipated that during the course of the work, most of the building will remain closed. However, access to the chamber will be provided for council meetings apart from the time where works are actually being completed in the chamber. A long-term plan to bring the Grange building to net zero status has been included in the Watts report. This work will include mechanical and electrical works such as boiler replacement, lighting upgrades, external cladding, roof improvement, and additional PV capacity and battery storage. The total cost of achieving net zero status is estimated to be £2,261,831. It's acknowledged that the net zero option will only be achievable if a source or sources of external funding become available. And the project team will continue to explore options for funding for future phases of the project. The total cost of the work is now estimated to be £817,751. £400,000 was approved earlier at the end of last year for work to be completed in the 23-24 year. So there is a requirement to set aside another £417,751 for the financial year 24-25, subject to inclusion in the capital estimates programme. So the recommendation is that the Council approves the business case in respect to the Grange retrofit project as detailed in 2.2, and that the project team continues to explore options for external funding for future phases of the project.
Thank you. And for that, Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Before I make any proposal, I have just a couple of questions. The first would be, obviously, it was a health and safety concern, was one of the first things that flagged this in terms of staff comfort. What's our obligation to staff in terms of timeframes for this project? For example, if it was to be delayed or part done in a year and then half completed in the next financial year after that, would that be in line with our obligations, or would it not, just from a perspective of looking after our staff? Chair, and the other point, or the other question I would like to ask is around the budget. Obviously, we have the first 400,000 approved in the estimates process and accounted for in the rates of last year. So looking at the 24-25 financial position, I would be assuming for this project that a minor increase is needed to account for the £17,751 of difference in the values, i.e. we've already budgeted for 400,000 this year, so if we roll that over to next year and stand still, we only need to raise £17,751 more. Is that the case? Have I interpreted that right? Or would we need to look at our rates and have a further, basically, 417,000 increase? Is it the lower amount or the bigger amount we have to account for in our rate setting process? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Anne, I can let you in there, Sharon.
So in terms of our staff obligations, I suppose this project, I suppose it's better to do it in one. We'll get better value if we go out for one contract, but it will straddle the 2 financial years. So, you know, if we go out to tender, the work will only commence in January. So, you know, we'll hopefully spend the 400,000 that we had allocated for 23-24 in this financial year, and then the remainder of the work will be completed in the new financial year. So the work is you know, if it is approved, the work, it's anticipated will start in January and it won't be completed until August. In the meantime, I suppose the staff, the decant plan, the work on the decant plan is underway, and it's anticipated that some staff may have to move out. You know, if they find it too cold, they will move out. You know, so the plans are underway to move staff before January, to move to other centres. You know, because the building is very cold. There's no doubt about that. In terms of we have 400, the second part of the question then, if I understand what you're saying, we have 400,000 approved for this financial year. The ask is for an additional 417,000 for the next financial year, subject to inclusion in the rates. So the ask is the 417,000, and that will be spent in the 24-25 year.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor Green at this point, just.
I'm bamboozled at Councillor Gannon's question there, that 417,000 would turn into 17,000 if we had to raise. But just on the report itself, it said a subsequent report showed that it needed. Surely there should have been a report initially that looked at this and brought this to us initially. What kind of a report was done in the first place? Obviously wasn't up to standard. And how much did we spend on that report that didn't show up these extra over double of what we had set aside? Surely whoever done the first report, if it was an outside body, needs to refund us whatever the charge just for that report if they missed more than half the cost of the work. Could it be clarified in that?
We didn't have any external support for the initial business case. That work was completed internally. But whenever we did, you know, in order to get a true picture of what the problems were, we did then commission this external piece of work. And I suppose the other thing to bear in mind is whenever this business case was approved back in January at the beginning of this year, and I suppose the other thing is that costs of everything have increased substantially in that period of time. But the first piece of work was completed internally, and no external support was obtained for that for the first business case.
Okay, Councillor. We will come back to you, Councillor. I'll just go to Councillor Armstrong now.
Thank you, Chair. Just, I'm curious to know a bit of background, even on the building, the Grange. I wonder if it's possible to have a report on that, when it was bought, purchase price, and when it was built, I beg your pardon. My colleagues are saying that it was built. So really, what is the current real-time value of the building and the resale value set against this proposed investment? I mean, I do support the council's aims to reduce running costs, but it is pretty, to say it's a third worst performance, it is quite concerning. And added to that is really a question, where is the overall council's estate policy on this? Because I know with the internal audit, it did talk about, it recommended a 3-year summary of priority resource. And should staff be able to be decanted to other assets within the area, does that not raise the point of, during COVID and with flexi-time working, are we using the right buildings, the best assets in the right place? And is that work underway? So before, I would like to propose that we do not go with the recommendations at this stage, and that the project is put on hold until that estate policy is reviewed with regard to that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, and well, if you want on at this stage, no, go ahead, it's all right.
Just a couple of specifics, just Chair, in terms, so the building was constructed in 1973. In terms of the value, it's included within our overall asset register, so that's available to members. What we don't have would be a resale value, because that would be something that would obviously cost LPS to take a valuation, and at no point in relation to our assets policy or estate strategy has the council considered that the civic headquarters would be up for redevelopment. So if that is something that members would wish to pursue, we would need a separate valuation for it. In relation to the assets, the estate strategy more widely, and it's referenced in the report, Chair, as part of the hybrid working arrangements, we are actually doing a piece of work regarding what the future configuration of our estate will be. But notwithstanding that review, I think, or the outworkings of that review, which we'll bring to members, I think it would be highly unlikely that the council would be getting to a position that we wouldn't be able to meet in OMA. So obviously the Grange is a requirement for that. In terms maybe to pick up on a couple of the points from Councillor Gannon's queries as well, in terms of maybe the delays and the staffing implications, I think certainly their view and the view of our trade unions would be that this work has already been significantly delayed. The building, unfortunately, is not fit for purpose. I think there was a reasonable argument a few years ago when I think it was described as Project Citizen was being undertaken around making larger rooms available in the Grange and removing a number of the offices, that the priority should have been to the windows and associated works at that time. But again, because of budget affordability, we stuck with the reconfiguration. So I would certainly think that the essential elements of the work have been identified, and I wouldn't be inclined to delay, but obviously that would be the view of members. And just in terms maybe to clarify also, to expand on Anne's points about the finances. So just to be clear, Chair, we do have the 400,000 provision, so we would need to make an additional provision of a further £417,000. However, and the purpose of the report before you this evening is, we couldn't contract until we couldn't proceed with the recommendation unless the council is proceeding with the full sum. So while the estimates process would proceed, if there is the approval for the recommendation, it will be on the assumption that that 417,000 will be included in our budget next year.
Okay, on WebEx with Councillor Kelly, Councillor Potterton Kelly.
Sorry, Chair, forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, go ahead now. Oh, sorry, Councillor McElduff, sorry as well then.
Okay, thanks very much, Chair. Just a couple of questions too. In the second part of the recommendation, it refers to exploring options for external funding for future phases of the project? Where might those sources be? I presume central government departments, energy efficiency, sustainability agenda, DERA, is it DFE, is it DFC? Where would you look for those possible sources? And then just maybe make clear, when is it anticipated that this work would be carried out? And thirdly, a recent development in both Oma and Enniskillen has been, increasing use of 16 High Street Oma, the Connect Centre, Struhl House, and also the county buildings in Enniskillen. How has that worked out? Because very often people come to either the Grange or the Town Hall for services, and they do have to be referred. How's that working out? And I'm all in favour of giving greater civic feel and civic ownership to the people of our council buildings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll get them questions addressed, and then Councillor Thompson in the chamber here.
Thank you, Chair. And I suppose in this post-COVID era that we're having a lot of staff come back into our offices again is certainly to be welcomed. And we want them to be comfortable and safe when they're there. Just one point, and Anand had referred to it in the report. It will be closed for a period of time when the work is carried out. Can you elaborate a wee bit more on as to where the staff would be relocated to? Thank you.
Okay, Anne, you can come on this point. Thank you.
Maybe to deal with the points in order, at this minute in time, we're not aware of any external funding being available, but we do anticipate that would come, as Councillor McElduff, central government. It could be, maybe UK Shared Prosperity Fund. We don't know. So that's why we'll have to explore that there. But as far as we know, there's no external funding available at the moment. The timeline for the project, we anticipate that if approval is given, that work will commence in January, and the work will last until August. In terms of where people will be relocated, it will be to the Connect Centre in Oma. It could be to some of the community centres. It could be to the leisure centre. There is a working group has been established, and they're looking at all of the the possibilities for people to be relocated. I suppose hybrid working will come into that. You may be sharing a desk with someone else, and so given that people at the minute are in 60% of the time. In terms of, I suppose, after this work is completed, then I suppose a review will have to be completed in terms of all the accommodation that is available within Oma, because, and the same thing will apply throughout our estate. I suppose if we complete this work and it is a huge amount of money, then you will want to make sure that the Grange is used all the time, and as many staff as possible can be located in there. So that may mean that we will have to look at other buildings in light of this commitment.
Okay, thank you, Anne. So, councillors here, you have been in before, but we'll let you in just briefly, please.
Very briefly, Chair, I clearly maybe didn't word my question in the best way. I'll try and put it very succinctly. In the 23-24 budget, we allocated £400,000. If we rolled over that budget identically into 24-25, i.e. kept everything the same, am I correct in assuming if you keep everything the same, there's £400,000 that would be allocated to capital, which in theory could be used for this if you kept the budget identical year on year? That's where my question was going. And maybe if I can give a wee bit of clarity around that, see if I'm thinking about it in the correct way. But Chair, given basically the staffing concerns, and we do have a duty of care to staff, and it seems that we're going to have to kind of decant them in kind of a scattershot kind of way to wherever we can find space and whatever little cubby holes we can find, basically. I do think this is essential work to be done. We also have our net zero goals, and this is a big step forward in regards to that. And we need the space. We have our net zero goals. So I don't believe we've had a proposer yet, Chair, so I'll propose them. as it stands. But just a wee bit of, I don't know if that question now makes sense, Chief Executive, in terms of what I'm trying to say in terms of the budget allocation, but I'll propose as it stands, given the very real need for our staff, for the space and for our net zero goals. Chair, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, well, I'll do invest, Chair. I think, and I suppose it's just to be able to answer clearly. Yes, Councillor Gannon is correct. We 400,000 in this year's budget, and if members were to agree to include 400 plus 17, so 417 in next year's budget for the work. However, as members will also know from the wider budgetary considerations, to have a standstill position is a different matter. You're actually looking to facilitate significant budgetary savings for it to remain at a standstill. So I think the clearest answer is that you have to make a new provision of 417,000 pounds in next year's estimates to ensure that the full sum is available.
Okay, Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. I'll be quick. The 2.1 million approximately to get us to net zero, is that in addition to this 817,000? And just going back on the survey or that was done initially, and then that was redone then by a consultancy firm. I'm struggling to see how we got that so badly wrong. And 800, that's nearly a £1 million. It's almost £500,000 of a mistake in the estimate. When that was brought to us previously, 400,000, we got absolutely slaughtered at the papers. It was headlines of the papers. Councillors spending 400,000 on windows. And by the way, it was to keep councillors warm, the way the story was slanted. Now we're up to 817,000. So I can imagine what the headlines is going to be on it. And yeah, I am all for our staff being treated properly and that, but that is a huge amount of money for windows. And I think lessons need to be learned going forward, that there shouldn't have to be a subsequent report. The initial report that comes to the chamber here needs to have all the facts, and whatever way that's went about, I think we need to learn from there going forward.
Okay, thank you. Well, Councillor Warrington's been looking in just as well. We'll bring in Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, certainly, this sort of expenditure is concerning. And I think my party colleague, Councillor Armstrong, made a proposal, which I'll second. Councillor, I think it was Councillor Michael Duff, highlighted the I don't know how many spare buildings the council has in the Oma area. I know in Enniskillen we're probably quite rich in buildings, because we have obviously the county building down in the middle of the town. We have the old tourist office. I'm not sure what the story is with the likes of the Clinton Centre at the moment, and places like that. So certainly, I know there's plenty of space around the Enniskillen end of things. I know that doesn't suit the Oma side, so I'm not sure what surplus buildings would be in the Oma side to be able to accommodate rehousing staff. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. And Councillor McElduff.
Thanks.
Briefly.
But, this is online. This public meeting is streamed, isn't that right? And people take the opportunity to lobby. So I'm being lobbied during the meeting. To ask the question, and wearing my access and inclusion chair hat. Is there any thought been given to the provision of changing place accessible toilet in the Grange? That's a question that has been put to me, and then I'm duty bound to put it here as well. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just get them queries now from those members, please.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Chair, maybe just to pick up on a couple of the comments. Firstly, in terms of Councillor Green's comments, I think they're entirely fair. My understanding in terms of the initial review that was undertaken, it was assumed would be largely like for like window replacement, and it was only when the invasive survey was undertaken, the extent of the works and in particular the deficiencies which are visible have been identified, and it certainly would have been preferable that the information was available to us before the initial business case was undertaken, and I think, yes, there does have to be learning from that. In relation to Councillor Warrington's comments, Chair, regarding the provision of buildings, I think Anne has already alluded to in the report what we would have available in relation to OMA. I think the key issue here, though, Chair, is this is one of the main civic buildings that we have that is not fit for purpose. So the proposals are to enable it to be fit for purpose, and there is a wider consideration on our estate strategy if in the context of hybrid working and indeed other post-COVID arrangements we can streamline that estate. However, I don't envisage that streamlining would include the removal of the Grange from members' estate. And just in terms of Councillor McElduff's inquiries, I think it's stated quite clearly, Chair, within the report what the scope of works are, which are around energy efficient and associated measures, and not including the provision of a changing places facility.
Okay, members, I think we've had a good time of debate on that. We do have a proposal before us which has been seconded, and then we also have the recommendations that were proposed by Councillor Gannon. So Councillor Armstrong proposal, could you just run that past us again, Councillor Armstrong, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was proposing that we do not go with the recommendation and that this project is put on hold until the asset or estates management policy is reviewed to look at the priority resource and the budget requirements to examine the asset objectives and performance.
Okay, members, you've heard the proposal. Is there agreement on that? It's been proposed and seconded.
Sorry, Chair, there was another question. Councillor Green had also queried just regarding, my apologies, if the 800,000, if the 2.1 million was additional. No, my understanding is that is the total cost is the 2.2 million. So this work would be a contribution towards that. So it would be a further 1.3 million to bring it to full net zero, if that's correct. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my apologies. Sorry.
Is there any dissent on that proposal by Councillor Armstrong? Okay, take that as passed. So we're not proceeding with the recommendations tonight. All right. Thank you, members. We'll move to 4.3 is to consider report of Director for Regeneration and Planning, and Kieran's bringing that. Thank you, Kieran.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is the acceptance of letters of offer. A request from Rosslane District Community Forum for a project and to be invoiced at 2 stages. In October 2023, £7,821, and outstanding payment then and final payment of £7,880.56 to be invoiced in September 2024. We're then going on to an update on the Shared Prosperity Fund, which will be technically the replacement for our Go For It programme and other mentor support programmes. We anticipate that being launched in November, but we will bring a further update report on the programme at a later date. And just to advise on 2.4, the Shared Island and Business Development along the Sligo, Leitrim and Northern Counties Greenway, is that we will have a workshop in Balcoo on Wednesday, 18th October from 10 a.m. to 12 noon to discuss the business opportunities on that Greenway prior to the Greenway working, so that we're in a situation that once it's kind of developed, that we're already working with businesses on that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, you've seen the recommendations there, members, at point 8. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm more than happy to propose the recommendations, and I'd appreciate maybe just a little bit of latitude, as I just want to expand a little bit on 2.4 in the report, which I suppose what I would be seeking is perhaps a bit of an update in terms of the council's current approach to and the status of, I guess, greenway proposals and outlines within the district at present, because one of the things that strikes me is that there was considerable disappointment during the last mandate whenever, following the feasibility study, the Omagh Carrickmore proposal didn't really get the momentum on account of the fact that it was deemed not feasible, not viable at the time. But I'm conscious that earlier in the year, I think it was Sean Quinn, we had an engagement with him who was commissioned by the council to look at these matters in terms of the South Sperrins piece. And it looked at ideas around Gortnagarn to Gorchin, Omagh to the Ulster American Folk Park, and from there out to Gorchin as well. And indeed, in terms of the Omagh Place Shaping Plan, there were ideas being speculated about in terms of Omagh to Strabane. And I suppose I'm just conscious that it's quite easy for some of these things to fall by the wayside. And I just would appreciate, where do we kind of stand in terms of where the council is moving with these? I mean, do we know what our next steps are in terms of progressing them? Who are we engaging with? Are we engaging with neighbouring councils who would have a relevant role in terms of the delivery of those? I appreciate each of these will be subject to their own different steps in terms of potential feasibility studies and all the rest of it. But I suppose people out there on the ground who are interested in the development of this green infrastructure are interested to know where the council is at the minute with them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Green.
Thank you. I'm a bit lost there where the green, are we on 4.3? Yeah.
0.3, yes.
All right. Yeah, I don't know whether it has been proposed, but I think Stephen proposed it, so I will second that.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Have a response just online?
Well, yes, Chair, we have brought reports through in this matter, but very briefly, can certainly say we have secured funding from DFI for initial pre-feasibility studies for a number of routes. We are liaising with neighbouring councils. However, the only greenways that are currently economically feasible based on the funding package are the work that we've been doing in relation to Enniskillen to, well, Sligo and Enniskillen, specifically from Enniskillen to the border. We have also working with Ballyshannon across to Balik, which is likely to be shared island. In terms of the Ulster American Folk Park down, potentially within a growth deal project. However, DARA have indicated with DFI it's not something that they're willing to pursue at this point. So I think we did bring an update relatively recently, and what I'd suggest, Chair, if there's a change to that, we'll provide members with an update accordingly.
Thank you. And Councillor McElduff.
I think my question was being answered there by Alison. I was wondering, for example, where is that Ulster American Folk Park? To Gortnagarn, wasn't that a possible route? Where was that study? Where was that feasibility? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's proposed and seconded, members. All agreed. Thank you. Move on to item 5 now. 5.1 is to consider a report on service level agreement with Education Authority for Youth Service Provision in the Bonacre, Irvinstown. John, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Education Authority currently operates Irvinstown Youth Service from the Bonacre Centre, and they're wishing to extend the number of nights that they provide the service from 3 to 4, and also to extend as part of that the area which they have in the Bonacre Centre. They will cover the full cost of that is involved in any preparation works for that room. And so, Chair, it is recommended that the Council approves entering into a service level agreement. At the moment, we have an ad hoc relationship with the Education Authority, but this is to put it on a more formal footing. So we enter into a service level agreement with the Education Authority for Youth Service use of facilities at the Bonacre, and approves the carrying out of minor works to facilitate the agreements. Those works will be fully funded by the Education Authority.
Thank you, John. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I welcome this report and the agreement to extend the youth facilities there. So I'm happy to propose the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor. And Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm happy to second the recommendations and support the service level agreement with EA. It's great to see a bit of collaboration and partnership working there.
Thank you. It's proposed and seconded. All agreed, members. Thank you. Move on to 5.2 is to consider update report on Colca Lakelands Geopark. And that's John as well.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, yes, it's a quite extensive report on the Geopark. It provides members with the draft minutes of the Colquhoun Lakelands Geopark annual general meeting on the 16th of June, and also the draft minutes of the Geopark Committee on the 22nd of September for noting. And there are a number of associated actions arising from the Geopark Committee meeting. Just moving on to those. The Ulster Wildlife and Crichton Carbon Centre have submitted a concept note to Police Plus for a nature recovery network project. And it is a programme of training, mentoring, knowledge sharing and best practice in peatland restoration. It would be 100% funded through Police Plus if it were successful, and would be delivered over a 3-year period. And it's just to get approval that the Geopark is included as a partner in that concept note, which will be submitted to Peace Plus. The second element is the transboundary water project to improve the knowledge of the water that flows under the ground effectively through the limestone rocks between the two jurisdictions of Cavan and Fermanagh. And how that impacts and how to gain a greater understanding of how that impacted on the formation of the caves and so on, and how the rainfall actually impacts on that. So it's very much an academic study. Again, the project would be 100% funded, and if successful, would be delivered over a 3-year period. And as part of the project, there would be potential for a project officer to be employed over those 3 years by the Geopark. There are a number of shared islands projects which the Geopark are involved in. One is the cross-border master plan for Colquhoun. Again, it's all about the sustainability of the landscape, the management of it, the management of the peatlands and restoration of the peatlands, and how they can be maintained for generations moving forward, both from a recreational point of view, from a heritage point of view, and how the impact of climate change actually, what impact that will have on the future of the Geopark. And it looks at regenerative tourism, interpretation, signage. So it's a wide-ranging master plan for Colquhoun. Like I say, it is part of the Shared Island project. Cavan County Council are the lead partner. The ACOM have been appointed as the lead consultant in relation to the feasibility of it. And there is an agreed contribution from the council for this stage of the project for €15,000 towards the total cost of €150,000. Again, Cavan County Council will provide another €15,000, with the remainder being met from the Shared Island Fund. Geopark is also involved in the regenerative tourism cross-border project with Donegal County Council, and this is in relation to Belique Castle Caldwell. And I know Councillor Donnelly had mentioned about greenway provision. That will be part of that shared island funded project and the feasibility of that. Another project also is in relation to the Castle Saunderson and Castle Caldwell shared heritage project, a capital project. Which will see or will look at the feasibility of large-scale capital works at the two centres, at the two sites of significance. And finally, Chair, the members will be aware of the accreditation that took place earlier this year in relation to the Geopark, where 2 evaluators were assigned to look at the accreditation following the boundary change which we had submitted to the Geopark Network Council. The evaluators submitted their report to the council, that's the Geopark Network Council, in August of 2023, and the UNESCO status was again unanimously recommended by the council. We are waiting final ratification of that, and we don't have the final report on that. There will be a number of recommendations, I understand, coming out of that, but we have formally to be notified of those. There are a number of costs associated which the Geopark is responsible for incurring in relation to the accreditation, and as part of that there was a lot of signage and whatever because of the new change in brand and also directly linked to the accreditation process itself, and that's notified in section 2.4 of the report. The Geopark Sustainable Business Programme has been shortlisted also for a number of awards. The Sustainable Business Programme has actually been one of the success stories of the Geopark. That is both in relation to community participation in the Geopark itself. But the Sustainable Business Programme has been a fantastic success in the Geopark. Over 30 businesses are now involved in it, wide-ranging businesses, you know, from service stations, honey producers. So it's wide-ranging as the number of businesses that are involved in it. And they have been shortlisted for a number of awards. You will see there Pride of Place in conjunction with Cooperation Ireland. The judging took place on the 20th of September, and we haven't been notified of that. I think it's next month, actually, when we'll be notified with this, whether it's been successful or not. The Chamber Ireland Excellence in Local Government Awards in the Support and Tourism category, and the awards take place on that on Thursday, the 23rd of November. And also the Fermanagh Herald Business Awards for the nomination for the Sustainability Strategy category, and the awards take place on the 13th of October in relation to that. Data logging systems, or as we probably would know it as visitor counters, the Geopark are planning to update their visitor counters and update the contract in relation to visitor counters. We currently have them at 21 locations across Fermanagh. We currently get updates from them on a quarterly basis just by physically downloading the information on a quarterly basis. The new contract would allow for real-time data in relation to visitor counters, and it is anticipated that a number, 6 counters of those would be for real-time counters. There would be an increased cost. Currently, we pay approximately £10,000 per annum for the quarterly downloads. For the first year of the new system, it would be £12,900 in the first year and dropping to approximately £8,400 in future years. And finally, Chair, in relation to the report, attendance at the European Geopark Network. In order to maintain the Geopark status, officers are expected to be represented at a number of conferences across Europe in relation to networks, and to share best practice and to share ideas and to give experiences as to what is happening in the Geopark. The European Geopark Network takes place in March 2024, at which our Geopark will be given the opportunity to present and enhance the visibility. The total cost of the attendance is estimated at £800, and the cost of that will be split equally between Cavan County Council and Fermanagh and Omagh District Council. So therefore, Chair, just for the approvals, that the Council approves retrospective partner status in pursuit of the Peace Plus measure for nature restoration, approves the retrospective partner status for the Transboundary Water Project, approves the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council contribution to the costs of the visitor counters, and approves attendance by 1 member of staff at the Geopark Network Conference in March 2024. And there are a number of issues highlighted there also, Chair, for noting by members.
Thank you for that comprehensive report. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would like to propose the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Green. And a seconder, please, members. Councillor Armstrong.
Yes, I'd like to second them. I think the Director's report really amplifies the nature we have around us and the value of that, and the interest in outside partners. So we should be really fortunate that there is that interest in doing the studies here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And that's proposed and seconded and agreed. Thank you, members. 5.3 is to consider minutes of the Health and Social Care Services meeting held on the 7th of September. Paper F. These are for just noting. Proposer and seconder, please. Councillor Armstrong.
Could I just ask on one matter, please, with your latitude, please? It's really an update from the Chief Executive on the Strategy Development Group. The Chair and the Chief Executive were invited to attend. I think it was in early June. Just maybe requesting a briefing on that process on the Strategy Development Group, And is that something that comes before the council for ratification as an agreed decision? Thank you for the appointment.
Okay. Chief Executive.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Yes, so Chair, the Chair and I attended, there was what was described as an informal meeting, and the first formal meeting was actually the last week of August. The next meeting, and those minutes have not yet been approved, nor have the terms of reference by the group. The next meeting is due to be on, I think it's the 27th, it's towards the end of October. And both items will be for formal ratification. And once the minutes have been adopted, we would then be reporting those through to the council. I had anticipated that we would have received maybe a communique or a bulletin before now as to the outworkings of the committee, but that hasn't happened as yet. My understanding, and then it would obviously be up to the council to decide whether they would wish to engage further. My understanding is that the trust will be uploading on their website once the minutes and associated documents are approved by the group. So I'm nearly sure it's the 27th of October. We would then be reporting into November meeting cycle.
Thank you. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. On page 4, on the privatisation and the relevance of the PFI funding, down on point 3, it states, the Trust would receive back the hospital at the end of the contract, fully maintained, fully updated, and with no backlog in waiting lists. What exactly does that and no backlog in waiting lists mean?
Chair, if members wish it, that was what the Trust representative said. My understanding was it related to the services that would be provided, that all matters would be dealt with at the time of the official handover of the building. So there would be no backlog in any of the works or waiting maintenance or associated matters with it. We can ask for a formal update from the Trust, but that was taken from their presentation to the subcommittee. The particular discussion around the private finance initiative, members may recall that there have been a number of representations, both through the council and through other structures, Chair, about whether there was the potential for the health service to be privatised. And my recollection from that part in the meeting was that Trust representatives had indicated that it was not an official decision to have it as a PFI investment. It was a political decision. All matters, and that gave an additional assurance to the future of the hospital, because once the PFI period came to an end, it would be handed back in full to the Trust. And they referenced in that context that with no backlog and waiting lists. Now, we can certainly seek further clarity, but that was my understanding from the discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe when they're in, maybe I'll ask them what does that mean and that. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. There's 3 points on this. There's one at the bottom of page 6 about the type 1 ED. They have said that they've changed the definition, okay, and I have no problem with them bringing the definition in line with NHS England and having one NHS definition. It would make sense. But what I do have an issue with, Chair, is the fact that when they're asked repeatedly, under the original definition, would SWA have been a type 1 ED department? They've never answered that question. I asked that of them and they just didn't answer it. I would be fairly confident that under the previous definition it wouldn't have been. And, you know, to myself and everyone looking on, it's no coincidence that the definition changed in the midst of everything going on with SWA, the entire PR disaster that the Trust had. And I think if there's anyone from the Trust listening, we're just looking honesty and transparency on it. Just say we changed it to bring it in line, and maybe it wouldn't have been under the previous definition, but it is under this definition. Just be honest about it. That's not hard to do. On page 7, there's the point about recruitment. I believe it is on page 7. But they have said it's untrue that they haven't tried to recruit. But that statement is just factually incorrect. They have not done a recruitment for SWA general surgery since July 21. And that's the point. They haven't done it in that length of time when they knew this would be on the cards, when they knew it was flagging up. So I'm just I think it needs to be challenged, and anytime a public body says something that's untrue needs to be challenged. And the final point, Chair, and I asked the question during this meeting and it was totally ignored, is what's the plan to bring it back, or what is the steps? What's going to happen? It's meant to be temporary. Okay, they say it's temporary, it's temporary, temporary. If something is temporary, you come up with a plan to reverse that and get back to the permanent position. And maybe you haven't got a plan yet. Maybe you say, right, we are going to develop this plan. But when quizzed on it, they just ignore the point. And I think that needs to be brought up strongly at our next meeting with them, that we want to see a plan, because otherwise it is just a permanent change. Like, it's just temporary on paper. So that is something that they really need to be quizzed on, because they can't play us for fools, can't play the public for fools. Just be honest and say, look, we have no plan because we feel this is going to be a permanent change. If that's their position, they just need to state that, or that they say when there's an executive back, that's the direction of travel. You know, again, it's about honesty and transparency, and we can disagree on that, and I would disagree with that and fight against it. But it's the honesty and transparency that is needed to give people confidence in the trust's management of the hospital. At the very least, we can disagree with them and try and make a case against them, but we need that honesty, because we're honestly, I think everyone in this chamber has been honestly stating their position, and I think some public bodies need to be honest as well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, there's the minutes, then there's a confidential minute as well, just a blank return. Councillor McElduff.
If I wanted to raise a health issue, you know, as somebody who isn't a member of the subgroup, you know, the subcommittee, is this an appropriate place?
This isn't maybe the appropriate time, Councillor McElduff, but how would Councillor McElduff do that, Chief Executive?
Yes, certainly, Chair. Well, we would be sending out to all members if there are any health-related matters they wish to have raised at the next subcommittee meeting, which is on the 14th of November, and we'll be sending that by email later this week.
Okay, is that all right, Councillor McElduff?
It is, you know, I realise now there's no mechanism for me raising the North-South reimbursement scheme for orthopaedic patients. I know there's no mechanism, but I'll do it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, just a proposer and seconder, please, then, members, for those minutes. Councillor Gannon, thank you. And a seconder, please, Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. Okay, 5.4 is to consider a report of Director of Community and Wellbeing. That's with you, John. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. There are a number of aspects to the report. First element is the All-Ireland Cross Country Championships. Enniskillen Run Club plan to bid for to Athletics Ireland to host the All-Ireland Cross Country Championships in the Meacairn Estate, which will be held on the 17th of November 2024. They've requested a letter of support to support that application from the council, which also included in that in the request for financial assistance of £10,000 towards the event. Whilst it takes place in the next financial year, and what we're proposing here is that we couldn't give a financial commitment at this stage in advance of the estimates process for events to be held next year, but certainly a letter of support without the financial commitment could be provided to Enniskillen Running Club in order to support their application. The Sligo-Leitrim Northern Counties Railway Greenway is one of the greenways which is progressing in partnership with Sligo County Council as the lead partner. There was a community liaison group which was established in 2021. We had from the council here, we had 3 members, as did all of the other councils, Cavan, Leitrim, Sligo and ourselves. Had 3 members sit on that liaison group. It hasn't met since the first public consultation, which was, I think it was February of earlier in this year. And that was in advance of the first public consultation. The second public consultation is due to go live in November, and certainly the group would be keen to meet. In fact, there is a suggested date of this Thursday in Glenfarne at 7 o'clock. So we are looking for nominations for 3 members of the council to represent the council at the community liaison group. Irish language bursaries, there was a query at last month's RNC committee in relation to the level of Irish language bursaries. You will see there at 2.3 that there were in 1920 there were 57 applications were received and 38 awards issued. In 22-23, 71 applications with 40 awards issued, and in 2023-24, 71 applications were received with 29 awards issues. There are a number of other bodies which issue bursaries for students to attend the Gaeltacht. Local GAA clubs, Conrad na Gaeilge branches, I know local fascists or whatever also provide bursaries. And what we have found this year is that the number of applications for the Irish in the Community Fund have almost doubled, and that's why the funding for the Gaeltacht bursaries have reduced in year from approximately 40 down to 29. We have a budget of 18,000 for the total Irish language activities. And I suppose for that Irish in the community fund, and a lot of that will be used up during Seacht na Gaeilge week, where community groups and organisations apply to funding for the provision of Irish language. That has increased from 9 awards in 2023 to 16 in this year, and it is a positive development in reflecting the increased participation at a community level within the district. There's an update also, members, in relation to Ulster Scots Language Week, which will commence on the 20th of November. And just to say that we are working with the WF Marshall Centre and the Ulster Scots Agency and Derry and Foe Action Group to explore the potential event for an event during that week. And there is a meeting actually which has been set up for next week with the Ulster Scots Agency to discuss in more detail the plans that we have within the district for the week. In relation to swimming lesson provision at Omer Leisure Complex, it has been for quite a while an issue of demand outstripping the ability to supply. And you will see there in the table the number of course opportunities and the places available that we have in the Learn to Swim programme and indeed the school swim programme, which lasts for 36 weeks. Historically, what has happened in OMA is that in order for progression, that people who have progressed on to the next level of swimming are given the first opportunity before the programme actually opens up to the public. And that's to allow people to actually to progress and ultimately to come out the other end and join the Stroll Dolphins when they finish or whatever. So demand is at a premium. The occupancy rates for those 718 places that are available is at 100%. And that is down to it's very hard under the current system to increase availability of pool time to swimming lessons, because it has a knock-on effect to the membership and also to casual swimmers who use Omer Leisure Complex. And we also have to say have found difficulty in the availability of swim coaches. However, we are looking at the options, because we do realise that there are a number of complaints that come in every time we open up the swimming programme in Omer Leisure Complex. So we're looking at an additional dedicated pool time of 1 evening per week. So we're looking at what is the day of the week, the evening of the week that is least used by members and least used by casual swimmers, and could we rededicate that into swimming time? We're looking at the recruitment of additional coaching staff, the revision of the swimming programme in terms of the number and levels currently offered. So there might be fewer levels, so that progression would be less, and actually quicker potential to transition from one level to another. We are looking at moving to a 48-week assessment model. Currently, it is a 32-week programme with the summer programme, but we would virtually be talking about a swimming programme throughout the year, except really around the holiday time or Christmas time and so on. So a 48-week programme, and indeed moving to a direct debit model of payment that allows the dropout at any point. And as I say, a model like that may well have some of its critics from the other side, from the casual swimmers and the membership swimmers, whose time may well be restricted in the pool. But it is when we're intending to trial the new operation for the new intake that would happen in January of 2024 to see how well it works. Members also, the Marble Arch Caves, the visitor attraction of the year award has been shortlisted by the public, and I think it's worth pointing out that by the public for the 2023 the Northern Ireland Travel and Tourism Awards. The results will be announced at the gala dinner on the 13th of October in the Slieve Donard. We have an opportunity to attend at a cost of £170 per ticket. We're very happy to receive the nomination, but at £170, maybe we're not suggesting that we're represented on the night. And finally, Chair, at 2.7, you will see there the outstanding actions in relation to RNC Committee for the period January to June 2023. So, Chair, further approvals that the Council approves the provision of a letter of support to Enniskillen Running Club in hosting the All-Ireland Cross Country Championships in November 2024 with no commitment for financial support, and that won't be provided until the completion of the 2024 estimates process, and it will be put on the agenda at that stage, and approves member nominations to the Sligo Leitrim Northern Counties Railway Greenway Community Liaison Group, and there are also a number of issues there for noting also, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor Green.
Thank you, John, for that. Yeah, I would like to propose the recommendations, and I would also like to propose that Sinn Féin, as the biggest group in the council, gets 2 out of them 3 nominations in the SLNCR group.
Okay, Councillor Green, thank you. Councillor Campbell.
Chairman, thank you. I'm happy to second the noting of the recommendations and second Councillor Green's proposal as well. And I suppose I want to particularly welcome the report on the swimming lessons provision and the ideas for improving things as they are. It is an issue that comes up every year, and there's some ideas in there, the additional pool time, additional staff. I suppose I'd like to know maybe how many more staff will be possible. That's something that'll be probably brought back at some point in the future, and also the levels for progression, because it is important, I think, that as many young people, I think particularly of children, but people of all ages want to learn to swim, of course. And I've got all my learning ahead of me as well, as it happens, but I fully appreciate the importance of swimming for children in particular. At an early age. I suppose the direct debit scheme, it talks about dropout at any point. I suppose that also includes progression. Maybe, that would allow, swimming has been a bit disjointed, and I know people have joined at a level that they maybe were in previously, but they just wanted to make sure they were at that level. A direct debit scheme would maybe allow that child to progress if it turns out actually it's like riding a bike, I'm flying again, at the swimming. So progression could maybe happen, and then indeed, would that mean there would be money saved effectively if it was a direct debit scheme and you moved into a more advanced level? That would actually save money as opposed to finishing out the current level? Just a wee question there.
It would, Chair, but it would also allow that we could actually tie in other packages, for family membership and things like that. So it could be better value actually for the people who are participating in the swimming program itself. So we could tie in other packages to the direct debit mechanism as it was at this point in time. So it is the way that a lot of local authorities are actually going with regard to their swimming lessons is via direct debit. But the option, of course, would always be there for other members to pay at the counter also.
That's important too, but I can see the advantage maybe of being able to progress. So I welcome particularly that aspect of the report, and I suppose we'll hear back more as officers look into this further. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. And if that requires seconding, I'm more than happy to. I'm not sure if Glenn did there, but I suppose to start, I'd like to say that I welcome the doubling of the take-up in the community fund, because I think that actually demonstrates that we are fostering a greater degree of engagement with the community around the development of the Irish language, and I think that's only to be welcomed. In terms of the swimming lessons, it is very much a double-edged sword because the oversubscription in some respects demonstrates the enormous popularity of our leisure facilities, and that's an enormously positive thing. But there is a significant amount of frustration out there in the community whenever that demand very much does outstrip supply on a consistent basis. So I welcome the work that is ongoing to try and mitigate some of those issues. And just for a bit of clarity, as I understand that these potential options that are on the table are still under consideration and are to be ironed out. Will we as councillors have the opportunity to have sight of the final model that's going to be trialled in January before that's put into operation? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, what I was anticipating is that we would model it. We will do it on a trial basis for the first element, and that after the success or otherwise of that process, that we would bring a report back at that stage following that trial basis.
Thank you, Chair. Some very good proposals in there, and to note a few good points. Obviously, is the letter support Enniskillen and Running Club, which would be excellent. And as Councillor Donnelly stated about the uptake in the Irish language bursaries, again another positive note on the work we're doing. And of course, just to mention the Marble Arch Caves nomination, that's a fantastic achievement. And hopefully successful in the award. So it's nice to be able to stick an award on your tourist attractions. But Chair, looking at the Greenway Community Liaison Group, I know our party grouping would like to make a nomination to that as well, Chair. So if possible, I would like to propose that the SDLP make a nomination to that group. Thank you.
Okay. And then on WebEx, we have Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Couple of points. I knew Councillor Campbell would come in strongly on the swimming aspect. I know that he has been lobbied, and I have been lobbied by a lot of people about that issue. What I remember distinctly is a lady and her children in a restaurant setting calling me over and saying that as soon as the bookings go live, you can't secure a booking. That stood out in my mind, that it was gone immediately, and a very attentive parent was being excluded from the process. So I'm just wondering how we would communicate with people about this and consult with people if they have ideas. I do appreciate efforts are being made. And then secondly, in the Irish language, maybe John could tell us when councillors might have the next update, from his department on the programme rollout. When's the next one scheduled? And when's the next calls for funding in respect of Seachtain, the Gaeilge, and also Irish in the community? Thank you.
Okay. I'll bring in another speaker before you respond to that. Is that all right, Joe?
Yeah, that's okay.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, John, for bringing back that information that I'd asked for in relation to the Irish language bursaries and the fund for Irish in the community. I would be a bit disappointed as to where we're at now in terms of the amount of bursaries that are being allocated year on year. We're going down in the periods that we're looking at from 19 to 20. We've dropped from 66% funding to bursaries down to 41%, which is a significant drop. And I appreciate funding is tight, and we're trying to reach out into the communities again for promoting Irish language. But I wonder, maybe is there an opportunity to maybe look at how we fund the bursaries? At the moment, we're offering £150 for a 1 week course and £270 for up to 3 week course. Perhaps to try and reach more people, we should look at £100 for a 1 week course, £200 for up to 3 week course, to try and reach more people who are applying for bursaries and to spread that money out among the community. It might make it a burden a bit easier for families that are trying to encourage their children to go on these courses. So I'd like to make that a proposal that officers would investigate that as an option, maybe to review how we fund the bursaries in the coming year.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Councillor Devine Gallagher.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second Anne-Marie's proposal there. and just to speak about the swimming lessons. Like the last time we were talking about this, we'd said that the lessons happen after 3 o'clock in the day, so the daytime hours weren't being really used for that. But I was wondering if this was as an idea, perhaps lowering the age of children being able to swim, if there was trainers there to be able to maybe take younger children in, so that it'll help them, so that the rollover effect would be better, if that was at all a possibility.
Okay, thank you. And just finally, Councillor Warrington as well, and then we'll bring John on them issues.
Thank you, Chair. Certainly, yes. Going back to the Greenway Liaison Group, I certainly would like to propose a member of our party to attend that. And if we want a nomination tonight, I can give you that, but certainly want to be included in that group. Thank you.
Okay. John, do you want to take everything else, and then we can take the nominations maybe at the end, sure?
Yeah, okay. Chair, just in relation to the first point of the consultation, we will promote the swimming lessons as widely as possible on social media and so on, in order to make sure that the public out there are aware that there may be increased provision in relation to it. I will come back to Councillor McElduff in relation to the date for the next update meeting, and indeed for the next calls for funding. The calls for Shot na Gaelic are to go out very, very soon, I believe, but I'll come back to Councillor McElduff in relation to the exact dates. In relation to Councillor Donnelly's in trying to find out how we are trying to look at how we fund the bursaries. Certainly we can look for moving ahead for the next year, for changing the rates that we give to individuals, for the £100 and so on. In relation to Councillor Devine Gallagher, the swimming lessons, there is a very specific age at which, for health and safety reasons, that children are allowed into the pool for swimming lessons, for formal swimming lessons. And whilst 3 o'clock, I suppose it has to be economical also for the council to some level, and I don't think the demand would be there, and I think we do actually provide for that age group in our formal swimming lesson programme. So I think both from an uptake point of view and also from a legal point of view, I don't think we could go in under the age, and I can find out for Councillor Devine Gallagher the actual age at which the first age that we can take children for swimming lessons. Certainly we can look at.
Okay, thank you. Two proposals there, members. Was Councillor McElduff and Warrington looking in again, or is it? Was your hands up from before just? Okay, must have been up from before. Councillor Green?
I made a proposal that we would like 2 positions out of the 3. Is there any possibility that we asked that we look for 4 positions? I think given the size of our mandate, we should be entitled to 2, but if UUP and SDLP wants on, is there a possibility of getting an extra one? No.
Just even previous, or what was the layout previous? Or?
Chair, we have a memorandum of understanding with Leitrim County Council, Cavan and Sligo in relation to this, and it was agreed that each council would have 3 members who would sit on it, and it was felt at that stage, and I'm sure that would still be the case by the councils, that 4, because I think the previous time when we nominated 3, I think we had asked for extra members also, but it was felt that 4 members would be very unwieldy for a committee or for a grouping.
Okay. Well, we'll maybe take just the rest of the recommendations, and we had it proposed by Councillor Green, seconded by Councillor Campbell. As members all agreed on that. And then we had a proposal by Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and seconded by Councillor Devine Gallagher in the Irish language bursaries. Is everyone agreed on that? Okay. Okay, so members, the three nominations that we need, if Councillor Green's proposal was passed, Chief Executive, how would the third member be worked out?
We don't, Chair, at the moment have a seconder for either of the nominations. I mean, what normally the agreed position would be that we would nominate by agreement, and in the absence of agreement, we would go to Hunt. And normally we would go in the context of agreement after the largest grouping, we would work through in party size, which would be the Ulster Unionists, Democratic Unionists and so on. But we don't have a seconder for either of the remaining proposals. And just maybe for completeness, Chair, to note that were we to go to Hunt, we would have 3 Sinn Féin positions out of 3.
Okay, thank you for that clarity, Chief Executive. Councillor Campbell.
All right, Chair, maybe I misread this, but I did second Councillor Green's proposal. Maybe that's a separate.
Yes,
Yeah,
well, we'll take that. We'll take that as seconded now. Okay.
Misread that, okay.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
oh, sorry, Councillor Green.
sorry,
Yes.
to make it easier, I'm still happy enough with 2 for Sinn Féin, and if the UUP and SDLP can agree on who represents the other one, I'm not looking for 3, even though that's the option, but if needs be.
Councillor Armstrong.
Chair, I was going to second Councillor Warrington's proposal, but maybe just leave it to the group leaders between the UUP and the SDLP to agree. Thank you.
That's okay. Happy with that, members? Okay.
Chair, just maybe given the meeting on Thursday, Councillor Green be in a position to give his nomination.
Okay, you're not in a position to give the 2 names, Councillor Green, just for the meeting on Thursday, or do you want to pass them on tomorrow maybe to?
We'll pass them on, we'll give the names
just for the meeting on
next
Thursday.
day or so.
Okay, and Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe if the Hunt positions down a few positions could be given to us as well, just to allow full consideration. If, let's say, there was the first 3 picks were Sinn Féin, and as Councillor Green has indicated, they would potentially skip a pick, potentially, to go for 2. What would be the following order of that?
Sorry, Chair, just need to be clear, no, that isn't how it would work, Councillor. So we would essentially just work in order. So we're up to position number, we'd start at position number 37.
Yeah, so what would be the next few positions is what I mean, sorry.
Okay, well, so Sinn Féin, Sinn Féin, Sinn Féin, Sinn Féin up to position 40, Democratic Unionist position 41, Sinn Féin, Sinn Féin, Sinn Féin up to position 44, Democratic Unionist 45, Ulster Unionist 46, Sinn Féin up to position 50, then Alliance, Sinn Féin 51, DUP 52.
I think given that, Chair, if we went to the Hunt and assuming Sinn Féin would take 2 and assuming the DUP go for none, it would fall to the Ulster Unionists anyway. So that's assuming that everyone would go that way, making an assumption. So at that stage, Chair, I'm happy enough to not have a position on it. Well, maybe not happy enough, but we'll obviously accept the inevitability of that. Thank you.
We can take that as withdrawn then, that proposal. Okay, Councillor McElduff.
Sorry, I should have taken my hand down there. Sorry about that.
Sorry, no problem, Councillor.
Yeah.
So just to clarify then that we didn't use the Hunt there, we used the Great Hill.
Okay, members, that's agreed. Thank you. We'll move on now. Item 6.1. These are for information. To note update report on the Community Planning Strategic Partnership Board. Siobhan, have you a word on that, or just for noting, just for information? All right, have we a proposer, please? Councillor Dan Armstrong, and a seconder, please. Councillor Thompson, thank you. Uh, 6.2 members is to note update report and visitor experience development plan partnership, and that is for information as well. Proposer, please. Councillor Adam Gannon, and a seconder. Councillor Withers.
Yeah, Chair, I'll second that. And just a quick comment as well. It was raised with me about the possibility of having representation from additional needs or disability groups, if they could be added to the VDP. So I just want to propose that if that's a possibility, just for greater inclusion. Just I think that would help with that. Thank you, Chair.
Just to note, we've already agreed the makeup, Councillor, but we can certainly ensure there's an effective feedback mechanism into the existing groups.
Okay, And the proposer's happy with that as well. Okay, thank you. Item 7.1, members, is and to note the environmental health delegated decision record, order 2, and that's for noting as well. Councillor Thompson, thank you. A seconder, please. Mr. McColgan, thank you. 7.2 is to note the report on air quality equipment monitoring funding. That's for noting as well, members. Can I have a proposer to note, please? Councillor Stephen Donnelly and a seconder. Councillor Armstrong, thank you. And 7.3 is to note the update report and provision of athletics facilities. John, you wanted maybe to update us just briefly on that?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Just in relation to the drainage, I know there's been an issue at Oma Leisure Complex on the track, the drainage system. The work has been done in order to try and resolve the issue. It was skimmed, aerated and brushed on the track. Sadly, last week when the rain came again, it still continued to pond on it. There will be more invasive works that will be done in the coming weeks in order to try and sort out the issue. There is a drainage pipe on the inside of the track. There is another one on the outside of the track, but the linking of the two is the issue that needs to be sorted. So the invasive works will be undertaken in the next number of weeks. You'll also see at section 2.2 of the report, though, there was a request in September, a meeting about athletics provision in the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council in relation to the number of running tracks that we have. You will see that of all the councils, we have the highest provision with 3 tartan tracks in our district and 2 shield tracks in our district. No other council has 3. Everyone, if they have any at all, have only have 1 tartan track. And there's also information there, Chair, in relation to St Michael's, the use of St Michael's tartan running track, which was funded through ourselves and Your School, Your Club, Sport NI funding.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Willers.
Yep, thank you, Chair, and thanks to John there for the report, and I welcome the works that have been done. That obviously that was a concern that had been raised with some local councillors in terms of the flooding that was going on there at the track, and obviously now we're back into the winter, and as John has highlighted himself there was issues even as late as last week. So we'll be getting future feedback on that according to the report from John, and also just on that, in terms of any upgrades to the track, I know that that's been discussed previously with officers. If this can't be solved in terms of the current situation with the draining, is there a possibility of looking at further report in terms of trying to source external funding even for work at the track, which would upgrade the track and ensure that it wasn't an issue anymore if it can't be resolved, as is currently the case? Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I would be confident that we will find a technical solution to the drainage problem. I can't see any reason why we can't be able to take water from it, and certainly something that we'll continue to explore. And hopefully, I would be confident in the next couple of weeks that we will have a resolution to it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair, and thanks to John, Director Boyle, for his report here. I suppose it was raised with me quite a while ago by certain people who were using that track, and I suppose it is disappointing in a place like Oma Leisure Complex that we have such a track and we have that water ponding issue. But I know the there's works have been done here, and hopefully, as you say, Director Boyle, that further work will solve the situation, and we look forward to being fully accessible again and well used as it should be. So thank you. If these are,
I just need a proposer, even though I haven't got a proposer.
I'm happy enough to propose, Chair.
Okay, and Councillor Armstrong.
Chair, and thank you to Director Boyle for the report. Yes, I mean, we're all suffering from the amount of rain falling, and I do hope it can be diverted off the track in Omagh. Just a point on the tartan tracks, we're really well provided for in Fermanagh in comparison to other councils. And there's many, good role models there for our young people to look up to. I'm very pleased to see St Michael's is so well used. You can see that when you drive past. So I do welcome, more promotion of that. Really turning to North Fermanagh Valley Park, and I'd just like to propose that the Community Health and Wellbeing Officer if they could encourage some work with that particular facility, just in terms of health and well-being, that its usage there, it's a great resource to have in Kesh. I do think the capacity there to use and to run the North Fermanagh Valley Park is something that maybe just needs a little bit of support. Just a proposal to make there that they're given some support with the usage of that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, and Councillor Gannon.
Yes, Chair, I'd just like to second Councillor Armstrong's proposal. I feel like obviously having used all the facilities in the Fermanagh end anyway on multiple occasions, that the North Fermanagh Valley Park isn't utilised to its full extent. It's a very good facility and has potential for growth, so would be good to see it get significantly more usage, and hopefully the drainage issue can be solved on the Oma Leisure Centre track. I know it's an issue. It was always an issue at the forum there, and eventually, I know myself, I just accepted I was going to get me feet wet and went through the first time rather unpleasant. But obviously, I wouldn't be at the level, the competitive level that some of these runners would be, and they need the drier surface. But thank you, Chair.
Okay. Did we get a seconder for the overall? A seconder just for the overall report? Are you happy, Councillor Armstrong? And Councillor McElduff? Yes.
Thanks very much, Chair. Very interesting report. I too stood at the location, on the track at the commencement of one of the park runs on a Saturday morning, and that ponding and flooding is really, really off-putting. You couldn't work with it at all. But I'm glad to hear John say that he is confident that a technical solution is going to be found with those invasive works and the way he described the inner and the outer piping, so would like to think then that will be solved, and that would be hugely important. Just ask John if he's aware of the Strudel shared campus plans then for athletics facilities in the future as well.
Yes, okay, thank you, Councillor McElduff. Chief Executive.
Chair, I can maybe come in just specifically, Councillor McElduff, on the Strudel provision. And yes, my understanding is that state-of-the-art facilities, including athletics and to the full specification of a tartan track, are provided for within the Strudel campus. And members will be aware, I suppose, from previous updates in relation to that project, that there's a particular desire on behalf of the Department of Education and the various schools for community use outside of core curriculum time, which is why it has always been a view that we should certainly work collaboratively with the shared campus to ensure those facilities are brought to fruition.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, members, that's agreed and proposed and passed. Thank you. Now on to correspondence. Members, is 8.1, this correspondence dated the 4th of October from the Deputy Secretary, Economic Strategic Group, from the Department for Economy regarding the Invest NI Review Action Plan. That's for noting. We have a proposer, please, Councillor Armstrong, and Councillor Thompson is second. Thank you. And 8.2 is to note correspondence dated 19th of September regarding Irish Language Week. Chief Executive.
Just briefly to advise members, there's obviously a number of suggestions from Conrad na Gaeilge in relation to the Seachtain na Gaeilge next year, and to advise we do have an officer meeting lined up for early November to discuss some of those suggestions and proposals. Members will be aware the Council is already really providing quite a number of these, and we'll assess the feasibility of some of the other suggestions and then report back to members in due course.
Okay, Councillor McElduff, are you on this issue? This was from the last time, but just a proposer at this stage, members, please. Councillor Stephen Donnelly, and a seconder. Councillor Catherine Kelly, thank you. 8.3, members, is then correspondence dated the 19th of October regarding an invitation for a rural data cafe. So that's just for noting as well.
Chair, if I may, it is just, but it's just given the Rural Affairs Subcommittee and rural data is something that the Council has considered on a few occasions. So it is a free event. I know it's probably not in the most convenient location in terms of the Abbey Hotel in Roscommon, and it's next week, but I did think it may be of interest to some members. It would just be travel costs would be the cost incurred.
So if anyone's interested, sure, you can pass that on to your colleagues and touch base with you. Yep, pick it up tomorrow. Yep. Okay. Did we get a proposer to note? Just to note that, members, and with that going forward, proposer for that, please, just to note that piece of correspondence. Councillor Stephen Donnelly, thank you. And Councillor Armstrong. Sorry, try now.
Chair, are we on the?
We're still on
McDonald's?
the rural data.
Oh, beg your pardon.
Okay, just need a seconder to note. Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. And now we're on to 8.4. There's a piece of correspondence from DFA regarding the proposed prohibition of the right-hand turn Dublin Road on Skillen. Councillor Armstrong.
Chair, it's just I'm looking at the map and I'm just seeking a bit of clarity there. Does that, when they're indicating no right-hand turn, that's coming from the Belfast direction in the Dublin Road. So will that in effect, if there's no right-hand turn approaching Enniskillen, does that mean that traffic has to go up and around Belmore Street coming back to go into McDonald's?
Good
Chair,
question.
I had I think this would be worth maybe getting some clarity from DFI on, because I think it does appear a little contradictory on the map and on the narrative. And it obviously only came in literally the other day and was conscious environmental services, not for a few weeks. But maybe if members are content, we'll seek further advice and report back as a matter arising at the council meeting in November, and maybe a better map as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Happy to propose to note that.
Happy to
That's
propose
fine.
to note.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. I was coming in from a position of concern on this too, that this proposal that they're saying makes zero sense. And just as a point of information, turning right across two lanes occurs commonly in other places and is done with relative ease. Now, maybe we're not used to it in Enniskillen, but if you go to Belfast, you have to do it all the time, and it really isn't that difficult. And I would also be concerned about having an exclusive left-hand turn out of the premises. Current location for it, for McDonald's, it has an advised left-hand turn. The sign says advised. Now, you can turn right at it. There's no legal obligation. But if you think about it, all you're going to do is cause a car to turn left, and it's going to swing right 10 metres down the road to the next junction. So it just does not fix. Neither of those are particularly well thought out, Chair. And I would be suggesting, looking at it, that the right turn that the prohibition, I should say, of a right turn in is just makes zero sense and shouldn't be there. And secondly, on the exit, what they should really have is they should have a sufficient 2-lane exit to allow for left and right hand turning. Then that would mean moving the proposed restaurant back by a couple of meters. But I think for the sake of traffic and allowing that to happen, I've seen a kind of a similar design. They're using a similar design to what has been used, say, for example, on the Boucher Road in Belfast, and that 1 lane of exclusive turn causes serious tailbacks and troubles. And if you think about it, if you have only 1 lane going in from the town side, let's say the cars do go up in the turn and they come back in whatever way they can manage, then what you'll actually do is you'll have a longer tailback on the eastbound traffic. So really you're kind of just moving the problem. And as much as I'm sure McDonald's is popular, I don't think it will bring such an amount of traffic that it isn't already bringing. It'll be an increase of sorts, but I couldn't foresee it being such a huge increase that we need to overthink this. So actually, the current plans that are being submitted, road plans, by the looks of it, I know from a point of view of practicality, I would be saying that we as a council should be objecting to those plans potentially, but I appreciate that it's going to come back to us. But I would very much like those concerns to be expressed to DFI, because where on earth are they going to turn? What's going to happen there? If you think about it, where's their natural turning point? You're going to swing in down Derritower Road and try and do a dangerous U-turn. You're going to go the whole way to Duns and try and do a U-turn. You're going to go the whole way to the library, the next roundabout. It just makes no sense as they're proposing it there, Chair. But sorry, I went on for a wee bit, but I think, in terms of road safety on a very busy main road, it's something to be considered. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I actually thought it made perfect sense. It's something similar to what's there at the minute, I think. Just so, can I just, with the Chair's permission, just go back to the last item and the conference in Roscommon and say that as a member of the Rural Affairs Subcommittee, the person I think would benefit most from that would be Alan. And I'm just wondering, would it be possible to nominate him if he was available to go to it?
No, Chair, unfortunately, he's not available because, like Councillor Green, I thought similarly, but he's not available for the event. But we're certainly seeing if we've any maybe other officers who would be available. And Alan is liaising directly with the ILCRD in terms of the data sets that they'll be presenting. So I hope we will at least have some information for the next committee.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Chair, thank you for letting me back. And just going back to the McDonald's, my concern was that the traffic would travel on up to the War Memorial and turn there in Belmore Street, and that would cause, that was my concern, causing, you know, density of traffic and more traffic jams. But also Councillor Gannon's proposal there of right turns across 2 lanes. You have to bear in mind there's a fire station beside it as well. So if that could be added to the concern, I'm sure, you know, DFI will do the due diligence, but it's just those concerns being highlighted.
Thank you.
If you would, thank you, Chair.
I think we still need a seconder just for that. We have a seconder, please. Councillor Thompson, is that all right? Okay, members, I think that's all. There's no other correspondence, is there, John? Councillor Gannon, you had a proposal just to make, just go to your proposal, AOB.
So thank you, Chair. I was initially trying to bring this up in the council meeting, and I'm sure if Councillor Riley knew the way I was going, he would have been very supportive of me continuing on, because he's a big advocate for young people getting involved in going to their elected representatives. So the issue is related to the Ulster bus bringing school children from Enniskillen to Monet, well, to Derrygonley via Monet, and it is the stop beside the church there on the main road, the main Derrygonley road. And if anyone here knows it, it is a very fast section of road. It is blind bend, and there is no verge. There is a hedge. There's nowhere for the children to stand when they get off the bus. And I wanted to, in particular, raise it in a meeting like this, because it was a group of young people, 12, 13 and 14-year-olds, who came to me expressing massive concern for their safety and for their siblings' safety. You know yourself, it's happened before, very tragically, with children on our roads, especially as we're heading towards the dark evenings. But I wanted to just give them credit for having the initiative to go to someone and by themselves. They came and approached me and asked me about it, and asked if I could raise it in this forum and in the council meeting. So I'd just like to say fair play to them, and encourage any young person who has a concern to go to any local councillor, because we will, as representatives, I'm sure everyone will agree, we'll work hard for them and would encourage them to come forward. So in regards to this, Chair, I would be proposing that as a first point, we write to Ulsterbus to ask them to consider potentially the bus actually pulling on to the Monet Road and doing some form of 3-point turn. There should be space there, although that would remain to be seen, depending on curbs and other factors that an Ulsterbus representative would have to look at. And should an Ulsterbus say there is no, or that sort of way of fixing it isn't possible, that we would arrange a site meeting with Ulsterbus and DFI and the local all the Iron West councillors, ideally at the time the school bus would be getting there, so it can be seen just how dangerous it is, and to arrange some sort of fix for it. I think that there might be the easy fix of the bus pulling up, and yes, it might add on 5 minutes to the bus's journey. Whilst it does it, it might be cumbersome for the driver, but it would be much safer for the young people, and for that fact, anyone who is getting the bus and getting off there. So there's 2 points to that, Chair. we firstly write to Ulsterbus, and if they get back to us, well, I assume it'll come to council. We'll deal with the second point then about a site meeting, but that would be the way I would be intending to go. I think the appropriate thing would be to wait for them to respond to see if they'd be willing to make such a change. But I think I could foresee them saying no, not feasible, and a site meeting may be necessary. But thank you, Chair.
Okay, a seconder for that, please. Members. Councillor Stephen Donnelly, thank you, and all agreed. Okay, members, that brings us to the close. Thanks to our staff here tonight and IT and Democratic Services, and I wish you all a safe home. Thank you.